The government's attempted an ambitious budget tonight. In that sense, there's plenty in the document to stimulate debate and discussion. And in fact, if the government wanted to take control over the economic debate, or at least take back some element of control, they've probably succeeded in doing that. The three tests that we'll be using to assess the budget are around whether it promotes economic efficiency, ultimately with an aim of genuinely raising standards of living, whether it promotes opportunity and has a sense of fairness about it, and thirdly, whether it pays due respect to the economic realities. And you can tick off a few key achievements under each of those three categories. On the reform side, the infrastructure package is a step forward, particularly given that infrastructure should be expected to have some good multiplier benefits through the economy to the extent they raise transport efficiency, make conducting business easier, among a range of other benefits. The efforts to make sure all taxpayers, including those overseas, pay their fair share of tax domestically. And also the education package designed to raise standards of education across all school students. All of those should be welcomed as steps forward in the path to tackle some of Australia's structural headwinds. And certainly due respect has also been paid to the efforts to promote opportunity for all Australians, and that sense of fairness which is so important to the both political and economic debate. Again, the schooling package features quite strongly here. The efforts to improve labour market access for Australians are also important. Ending the freeze on the indexation of Medicare benefits, and also the efforts around small business depreciation and small business write-offs. I think all of those will be perceived as being steps in the right direction around the opportunity and fairness aspect, which is so important to budgets these days. And lastly, the economic parameters are realistic. They might not be conservative, which ideally is what a budget would have, particularly around wages this time, where there are some major structural questions about what's happening with wage growth in Australia, but they're certainly defensible. So around the efficiency piece, the fairness piece, and the economic reality kind of outlook, I think the government's had some wins. There are two main issues with the budget which I think may end up determining actually how successful it is. The first is the reliance around revenue measures rather than expenditure. As a share of GDP, expenditure is forecast to be flat over the next few years, while revenue is expected to increase. Tax rises are regressive on growth almost by definition, and that is a bit of a weakness in the budget. And secondly, in its efforts to convince itself that there is such a thing as good debt and bad debt, rather than just debt which creates a return and debt which doesn't, the government has announced a very ambitious infrastructure package, which also actually involves relationships with the states. How that money is spent will be crucial to how this budget is ultimately judged. This is an ambitious budget. In that sense, it should be welcomed. But like many budgets since the financial crisis over the past decade, it does assume to a certain degree that things just go right.